Ready to double. This is our growth mastery program. Excited to get into today's topic. And before we do, let me just quickly go over our disclosures. And that basically means there's no guarantee you're going to double. It takes work to double a business. It takes change to get out of your comfort zone, and change is always a little bit uncomfortable. But that's what this whole program is all about, is pushing through that. If you're just now joining us for the first time, welcome. If we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I'm excited to get to connect with you a little bit today. I'm Chelsea Keeler, and if you've missed on our last sessions, you can go to our YouTube channel to get caught up. So today is session 5. We're going to be diving in and talking about centers of influences and referrals. So today's agenda, we're going to be talking about a couple of key areas. So one is identifying the ideal centers of influence. COIs is what we're going to say. Mostly just that's what we mean by COI. And then how do you build that alliance with those COIs? And then we're going to go through nurturing those relationships and what that looks like. And we'll talk about a couple of common mistakes with referrals. And then we're going to end on the art and science of referrals, as well as going over the homework assignments in your growth mastery workbook. If you don't have your workbook, make sure you send an email over to learning@sequentplanning.com and get a copy of your workbook. All right, so let's get started. Let's talk about centers of influences. And first, we're going to talk a little bit about our homework from last week. So hopefully, hold on one second, move my pictures. Okay, so hopefully that you took some time to identify your best clients. Your best clients are always the best place to start, because you should be energized by working with those best clients, and then you want to repeat those clients, right? And so if you are able to map out who they are, you're going to start seeing some key attributes that might start repeating themselves, right? There could be some key demographics. Where are they geographically? Or are they in a common life event or series? Do they share pain points? Do they have different relationships that correlate? Are they in the same company, right? So all of those kinds of things is what you're going to map out. So what we're identifying in my little tri circle here on the left is a couple of common things, right? So you might have a bunch of clients that have the same employer, or they're all the same profession, or they're all part of the same social club. So whatever those things are that you started noticing, you're going to map them together. And as you see these different circles overlap, what that means is when you have 2 commonalities, that's a strong connection. When you have 3, that's a powerful connection. So you want to be looking for those doubles and those triples of, hey, there's something here, and we're going to be talking about it. Now, one of the things that I want to make sure that everyone really understands is that centers of influences are critically important, but they are not all equal. So you have to think about what's the level of influence that the center of influence actually has, and what's the accessibility, right? So how much access do you have? And so if we think about it, we're going to dive into these 4 categories a little bit more and who they are. But think about the lowest level of influence and the lowest level of accessibility are those gatekeepers, right? And then as you have more influence, but maybe less accessibility, might be the trusted experts. And then as you move towards the right, your low influence and high accessibility are the connectors. And then your highest influence and highest accessibility are going to be your advocates. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can score your clients with overlap, but then taking into effect the idea of what is the influence impact and what is the accessibility impact. So let's dive into those 4 areas just a little bit more. So let's look at our trusted experts. And this is where most people really think the COI magic is, and it is great, right? Because they have a lot of influence. They already have a strong clientele base. They're there. These are your attorneys, your CPAs, your bankers, right? So they've got that. And then the gatekeepers could be HR directors, office managers, assistants, different groups of people in that area. So again, we're thinking about where is the influence, and so that upper left-hand corner is going to be that real strong area. Now let's take it over to the right side. So this is how accessible these people are. So your connectors, those are your social butterflies. Those are the people who are always making introductions. Those are great people to have in your corner, but they might not have a lot of influence. So their voice and their weight might not carry as much clout as, say, the attorneys and CPAs. These are your realtors, your chamber of commerce, schools, organization, alumni, all of those things. Still important, but again, classifying where are your different COIs falling. And then the champion level is the advocates. So there is nothing better than your existing clients, than board members, than friends and family who have that level of trust with people and that have that accessibility, right? So those are kind of like your home runs. And so when you're thinking about scoring, you want to take these factors into play, right? How much influence does the COI have over those people? But then when you're thinking about, okay, who is connected with and who is working with my best type of clientele? Where do we have shared client overlap? Where is there shared credibility, influence, relationship style, accessibility? All of those things are very important for you to think about. So let's talk about the importance of building alliances. So once you've identified relationship-oriented COIs, you have to evaluate that partnership potential. And you want to do that early, because where I see a lot of advisors fail in their COI strategies is they're actually working a dead-end relationship, right? So a lot of professionals get approached for doing referrals and networking and asking, right? And then they end up in a dead end. So what's the difference? So you have to nurture those relationships. So you want to look for traits for productive partners. Think about the people who are going to work well with you. Collaborative mindsets, similar client philosophy, similar responsiveness, that client first mentality or growth oriented, right? So those are what you're looking for. Watch out for the red flags. Also, don't be a red flag, please. So you always want to ask. You don't ever want to just give, right? Like that transactional mindset, right? So that red flag is like, gimme, 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 all about me. That's not what you want to be. And if somebody is doing that to you, that could be a red flag for you. Poor client experience, right? That competitive ego, right? That could be a red flag. So on the flip side, just be the opposite is the green flags. So if you're seeing that, hey, these people are just intuitive about introducing people or making good matches or working in the same network, that's great. Hey, we have the similar mindset on education first or being proactive. Those are all green flags. So a few things that you want to do to continue to work that relationship is one, you could co-host events together, right? So that might include cost sharing. It might include client appreciation, prospecting events, educational seminars, whatever those types of events could be. And there could be numerous different styles. So that's one way to create some collaboration. You could also share educational content. You know your subject matter expert area. There are rules and laws that come up, and everything is so interconnected. I can tell you that some of the strongest COI relationships that I've seen advisors develop is where they've shared that educational content. The CPA says, hey, I'm going to keep you updated with new tax laws. Hey, I'm going to keep you updated with new investment laws. Or if you're a Medicare focused person, the changes that are going on here and how that might impact you. So that education is very valuable to all of the professionals, because we all know that we get asked questions outside of our subject matter experts. So we're never going to put ourselves out to provide any advice that we're not licensed for, but having a base education and understanding is really important, and showing that you have that network. So as much as you appreciate getting that information, think about giving that information. What can you give to your centers of influence to help empower them? And then in return, they're going to be thinking about you. You're going to be their subject matter expert. Oh, I know who I need to talk to when I have a question like this. So that number 2 is really powerful. Number 3, really, I did these kind of in backwards order. Number 3 is probably the most important, and this is create value. And it says reciprocal, but I think that you should create value first, right? So when you create value for someone, when you offer something for somebody, you don't need to sell anything. You're creating value, and in that value, it's going to return back on you. So there are a lot of different ideas that you can do around this. So another example of some advisory teams that I've worked with is they created a board. And this is where they would mix different professionals together to idea, practice, share. Now, you might not want to have competing CPAs on the same board coming together, but maybe you have a CPA that focuses in small business, and maybe you have one that does only individual work, right? So they could share. Maybe you have an estate attorney and a divorce attorney and a real estate attorney or whatever it might be. And so you can have similar types of centers of influence, but maybe not where they're directly competing for the same client on this type of board. I have seen where advisors have pulled in exact competing for collaboration and idea share, where it was more of a, hey, we're going to get together, we're going to do a little CE, we're going to do a little lunch, and then we're going to idea share with your peers, right? We like talking amongst our own peers for idea share. And a lot of times these are independent professionals that are hungry and thirsty for relationships too. And we could facilitate those connections. And again, it's just putting you into that area. So offering those CE lunches, offering the experience to blend with other professionals within their area, across function within other areas. Those are all really good, unique strategies that can go forward. So the very best COI growth pattern that I've seen advisors do is they treat the COIs just like a lead nurture program or just like a client service model program. It's organized, it's outlined, it's intentional, and it's repeatable. You know exactly what you're going to be doing working with these folks. So think about how are you going to connect with them, and then how are you going to stay relevant with them and stay in with them. So talking a little bit more about that nurturing relationship, think about the different ways that you can connect. So that lead nurturing program and that service model that I'm talking about should be threefold, right? So you want to make sure that at some level there's a personal connection, right? And understand that COI as a person, what are their values? What is their priorities, family, life, communication style, motivations, all of those things, their professional aspirations, right? Like, how can you connect with them on a personal level? Those meaningful relationships are built when people feel understood, and people like doing business with people they like. So don't fake it, right? So don't try to change yourself to fit in with somebody because you're trying to make it work. Make it natural. I had one advisor who was an avid hunter, and he built his entire clientele and CIO all around hunting. And I'm talking about hunting, I'm talking about big game hunting. They would go on massive excursions out west, booking Airbnbs, a guide, big game, whatever big game means. I don't know, buffalo. I don't know what big game means, but this is what he would talk about. And then locally, he would find a hunt club for these wild game dinners. Like, I was a little bit like, not really that interested to go, but good for you. Glad that it works. It was a rinse, repeat, and go. Like, these people were so personally connected. They would talk guns and ammo and I don't know, hunting stuff and taxidermy stuff and whatever it was. And then, oh, by the way, let's talk about business and clients and so on and so forth. It really worked, right? But you can't fake that. If I tried to join that club, it would come off really wrong. So don't fake who you are. Professional alignment is another area that can't be ignored and has to be focused. So the best CIOs are going to share a similar client philosophy. They'll have comparable service standards, mutual respect for the client experience, ethical alignment. They will have complementary services and expertise. That relationship deepens when both parties trust each other and their competence and their professionalism. So the best example here is if you're an emerging advisor, if you're 2 years in the business and you haven't really dealt with advanced estate tax issues, don't jump right in to advanced tax planning with CPAs and estate attorneys, right? That's not going to be the complementary fit. You want to find COIs that are at a similar level and aspiring to go higher. Think of this like climbing a ladder. We all might want to be at the top rung. You have to take it one step at a time. I don't mean that as an insult to anyone. I mean this practically because where I see some advisors fail is they keep their eyes set high. And believe me, I set high goals. I want you all to double your business and have high goals, but you can't underestimate one step at a time. And that relates to every area and every focus of your business, including your centers of influence and your referrals. So know where you are and find those professionals that are similarly aligned and grow together. And as you grow, you will move on and keep going up. So professional alignment is very critical, and to make sure that that comes right and connects together. So you also want to make sure that you have the mutual value, right? And that kind of ties into professional alignment, which I talked about a little bit. So that personal connection, can you trust the person? Your professional alignment, are we similar? Your value, are we helping each other, right? So those are the three things that you need to make sure you're checking the box, yes, for your your centers of influence, and then also that they're checking your box, right? That mutual thing is coming together. So the other part that you want to definitely make sure is consistency in your touch points. So you cannot just randomly reach out to your centers of influence, right? When it just happens, oh, I haven't talked to so-and-so in a long time, right? You have to establish a regular cadence. It doesn't need to feel cold or robotic, and you don't want to just put it on an email drip, because we all know how those come across and those feel. Email should be part of your strategy, but picking up the phone should be part of your strategy. Going to an event should be part of your strategy. Connecting together, maybe a breakfast, a coffee, a lunch, a dinner, a drink, cigar bar, or whatever it is that you have that connection, that personal connection, right? Those things are important. So think about those quarterly coffee meetings, quick check and text message, sharing relevant articles. Hey, I read this article. I thought you might enjoy it. Kick it over to them. You can set up Google alerts on your top clients. Side note there, but on your centers of influence, right? And so if something happens in their professional life and you get the Google alert and then you send an email, oh my gosh, I just saw you got this recognition. Congratulations. Do you know how much they're going to appreciate that? And did any of their other centers of influence reach out to them to acknowledge them on the article or the recognition, right? So those are those touches, right, that set you apart from the sea of sameness out there. So what are you doing for your touch points? Congratulating milestones. Maybe they, went independent and they hit their 10-year anniversary, right? So telling them that, inviting them to events, or all of those things. But consistency builds trust faster than just occasional networking or just happening to bump into them randomly once in a while. Don't underestimate the power of an invitation, even if no is the answer. They might genuinely be so thrilled that you invited them, it just doesn't fit in their calendar, right? So don't just stop, and don't make that assumption. A lot of people will just stop inviting because they think a no is just, they're blowing me off. Just be like, oh, I know how busy you are. I'm not going to quit inviting you until you tell me to, right? Persistence. And just saying, hey, if you really don't want to get these invites, then you need to tell me no, because I'm not going to stop, right? But do it in a tactful way. There's definitely a fine line, and you're going to walk right up to that line of let's not be annoying, but let's be persistent and not give up as well. You also want to make sure that you're bringing them value. We talked about this on the previous line, but it's so important. Strong center of influence relationships need to be reciprocal. And if you can help them grow, when you help people, it's just natural for people to want to reciprocate and help back, right? It's that, and you're not, it's like the saying of giving a gift is more valuable than receiving a gift. Like it does do something, right? Intrinsically with people. And so you're not doing it for that sense, but it's just like, okay, great, this is what's happening. So introduce some qualified prospects to them, right? Make the first olive branch, make that first step. Sharing the market insights, right? We talked about that education and that information. Maybe feature them in some client education event. Invite them. Hey, I need an expert. I need a quote or an opinion, or I'd love for you to pop in and share something or to present something, or, right, ask for a favor. People love to be helpful. And so it's a very complimentary honor for someone to be approached in doing something like that. I mean, not always. If you go ask an estate attorney to do something pro bono, they're going to look at you like, I charge $800 an hour. I don't think so. So again, know your audience, but you understand the premise of what I'm talking about. So be the best COI partnership that there is, because you know a lot of advisors are asking for these types of things. So why are they going to pick you over somebody else? One, you're going to be aligned in your client philosophy, client service. Two, you're an amazing advisor and you do right by your clients. Three, you're an amazing partner and you provide them value. It's going to be a no-brainer. They're going to pick you over other COIs. You need to learn their business deeply. If you want a very strong center of influence, and I'm talking, I've heard some advisors that have had strong centers of influence that it wasn't like, oh, let me give you three names and you're one of three. It is, this is who you need to go do business with. Here's the guy, call him, right? Like if you want that level, then you need to really know their business deeply. Take time to understand them, their ideal clients, their business model, pain points they face, their philosophy they face, right? Like you're taking that relationship to a deeper, more intimate level. This is not just a casual, I got a guy that we go to chamber once a month and have coffee with. This is a, hey, we're friends. Hey, we know each other's pain points and we're connecting in different ways like that. All right, so co-creating client experiences we talked about on the previous slide, but I do think that it's really a huge opportunity that a lot of advisors are missing. One, it can help offset some cost. And we're going to talk about seminars in a future session, but that's one of the areas where you can actually get a little bit of help in some of those costs. But it creates opportunities to better serve clients. And anytime you have a client event, it can turn into a prospect event. You can ask your clients to bring their friends, right? So thinking about those joint seminars or webinars, client appreciation, education workshop, cross-functional planning, collaboration, all of that. It's building trust, it's building visibility, and it's mutually beneficial. So those are very powerful. And then the last point that I'll reiterate again here is just follow through. We talked about the consistency of touches, but you have to be reliable with your follow through. So nothing is going to damage your relationship faster than poor execution. You've got to be known to communicate fast, have professionalism, have a client experience excellence, keeping them informed, closing the loops after a referral. I don't know about you, but it's not real fun when you throw somebody a referral and then they never close the loop. They never thank you for it. They never follow up to let you know how it happened or where it went. If you create a standardized process and somebody gives you a referral, you immediately need to say, thank you for the referral. I'm excited and my plan is to reach out to him here in a couple of days. I'll keep you posted how it goes. And then a few days later, want to let you know I reached out. Didn't hear from them, but I'm going to drip on them and I'll let you know if it progresses. Or we connected. It was a great first meeting. It was wonderful for you to think of us and connect. I really appreciate it. If you have other folks that need that same level, you know that I'm here for you and I'll keep you going on what's happening. But that level of responsiveness is again going to set you apart from the sea of sameness. It's going to elevate you and the experience that people are working with you. So centers of influence, extremely powerful. So now we're going to shift over to asking for referrals. And what I wanted to do here was talk about the 5 common mistakes. So this is number 1 is asking too early. So when we talked about some referrals earlier in the sessions, we did talk about adding them near wins or when you have solving points. But sometimes advisors ask before trust is fully established, right? So sometimes they make it so up to the line where it's like, hey, you're going to sign here and be my client. Oh, now tell me your referral. And maybe that trust wasn't fully there yet. So regardless if you're working with a center of influence or a client, right, you want to make sure that you have demonstrated value and that you're asking, and you don't want to wait too long after the value's there, but not before the value's there. So if you do it too soon, what you risk happening is that request feels forced. Clients might hesitate because they're just not quite sure, or the COIs don't fully understand your ideal fit or who you're looking for. So it adds like a little bit of a confusion. So wait to make sure that you have good positive outcomes, there's successful interaction, the relationship is building, there's momentum, there's good and then you go and ask. So another big mistake, which probably is broader, is being too generic. And we've talked about this in previous sessions too. You might remember the image of looking through the spyglass, right? So it is way too broad for you to say, do you know anyone who needs my help? Could you just send me some referrals? I mean, that's like, whoa, I know several hundred people. I really don't know what you're talking about. So people can't quickly identify. You've got to put blinders on them. You have to give them a straw to look through. Who are you looking for? Be very specific. What's your ideal client? Are they in a similar planning situation or life event, right? If you're a CDFA and you're working with divorcees, you can say, if you have any of your other circle of friends going through a divorce, I would love to be able to assist them in a similar way. So you're asking, do you know anybody that's getting a divorce? Send them to me. I love working with retirees and so on and so on. If anyone else at your company is getting ready to retire in the next 2 years, 2 year window, 5 year window, whatever, got to let me know and we'll connect it. Whatever it is, you've got to narrow that down. So whatever your niche is, whatever your focus is, whatever that commonality is, give them some blinders, give your clients a straw, give your CIOs a straw to look through and ask specifically for what you're looking for. Common mistake number 3 is making it about yourself. A couple of advisors have shared that a referral, they've asked for referrals to help them meet their business goals. And that can create a little bit of discomfort for a client. The relationship might feel a little transactional instead of client-centric. They might feel like, oh, okay, well, are you at risk of going out of business? Did I make the right decision if you don't have enough clients? So that is a little bit, maybe among professionals, you can say, I gotta hit my numbers. So I'm not hitting any growth. I gotta hit my numbers. But to a client, you need to know your audience. That might come across bad. So a better approach would be frame referrals around helping solve problems. Instead of telling them, I really want to grow my business, you could say, if you know anybody navigating this blank, I'd be happy to be a resource. If you know anybody else that is, whatever your niche is, whatever your focus is, like fill it out, make it your own. That's going to be a better approach. You want to make this less about sales and more about solutions. You want to make this less about transactions and more about relationships. And it's never about you. The client is the hero. The client is always the hero, and you've got to make sure you're framing it that way. All right, number 4 is failing to educate on what you actually do. And we can interchange COIs or clients, right? So a lot of times people might want to refer to you, right? This could be top clients, it could be friends or family, it could be your centers of influence, but maybe they don't really understand your specialty, your ideal client, your process, or when it would be appropriate to introduce you. So you have a lot of missed referral opportunities just because your value prop is unclear. So many clients, when taking surveys, will say, yes, I would definitely refer people to my advisor, but they don't always. So why? So you've got to educate your folks that are your advocates, right? They love you. They want to advocate for you. You got to let them know you're open for business and who you're looking for. And that way they can help you. So reinforce frequently who you help, how you help, what problems you solve, and what a good introduction might look like. So that's really important. And then the 5th common mistake is not following up and not closing the loop. So this is a repeated theme that we've already talked about, but it's so important and it's so prevalent. And I understand why. We are extremely busy and spread thin. Everybody is busy. I hate the word busy. It's overused so much, but it's just the fact, right? Like people are jamming so much in their calendar and it's easy to forget and it's easy to get sideswiped and just distracted, and here we go. But if a referral is made and you never circle back, the trust weakens. Maybe they feel disconnected. Maybe they feel unappreciated, but you're going to lose any referral momentum. It's going to die. But if you thank them promptly, if you communicate, if you share appropriate updates, right? You can't overshare anything that is confidential, but appropriate updates. If you express the appreciation, then people are going to feel valued. They're going to feel appreciated. They're going to feel informed. And that's like a good feeling. Like people like to feel good. And that's how you build momentum and you get process going, right? So we're thinking about taking these 5 mistakes and how do you reverse it and turn it around. So now I'm going to share a couple of fun facts. This is the art and science. So Jill, Eric, Leanne, if you're on the call, thank you for your ideas. And I didn't ask for your permission to share, but hopefully you don't mind that I'm sharing. So Jill does this really cool thing. At her annual meetings, she has business cards and she's got enough for all of the children of her clients. She passes those cards out and says, you've got to give your kids my cards. They need to know who I am. I would love to meet them, but should anything happen, they've got me. And that creates opportunities for Jill to then connect with the next gen. So now she's engaging with all of the adult children of her senior clients, right? It was really cool. Eric is probably the most disciplined LinkedIn advisor that I've ever seen in my life. He has whatever the maximum number of friends, connections on LinkedIn is. Maybe it's 30,000. I don't know, like not followers, but like direct connects, whatever that max is. He has it. And he is so disciplined at every day scouring, looking, commenting, connecting, asking for specific intros. There is so much art behind how you can use tools to your advantage. And I don't think I've ever seen anybody work LinkedIn better than Eric. So kudos on that. Leanne just last week blew my mind with her statement and I loved it. And I told her that I was going to work it in. So hopefully she's on and she's hearing it. If not, she'll catch the replay. But when Leanne gets a referral, the first thing she asks that referral is says, okay, now, did they tell you what I do or did they just send you to me? And this is a pivotal question. And it was brilliant because if they just send him to her, great, she can tell you everything that she actually does. If they told her what she does, she'll be like, okay, so the client's a little right, that's one piece, but let me tell you everything else. And this is her brilliance in the cross-sell opportunity. So the clients are going to think of you for one solution, the one main program, but this little sly intro says, no, that's one piece, but I do all of these other things too. So now you just opened up. So when you have a new client come in, you have the entire process. This is how I operate. I integrate life, health, and wealth. We're looking at your comprehensive picture. This is the process we go through. And so maybe with your referral, you did only solve one problem, but now with theirs, you've reframed it. So I thought that was brilliant and totally worth sharing. So the art to centers of influence and referrals is to make it real. People are not really going to remember what you say, but they're going to remember how you make them feel. And the science to COIs and referrals is be consistent, make a plan. Don't leave it up to what's on your brain or what might happen. Write it down and make it actionable. So first, the who comes to mind approach, right? So instead of directly asking referrals, well, let me hold on that. Hold on. Let me circle back on this. Okay, so this is going to be, let's see, what do we got? We have 15 quick ways of how you can blend the art and science together. All right, so now we're going to dive in. So the first way is the who comes to mind approach. So instead of just asking that, we've already talked about put the blinders on them, give them a straw to look through, and be very intentional about what you're looking for. Those things you need to write down. The client appreciation events, we've already talked about that. You can co-host them with your COIs. You can work them within your existing clients. But the idea here is you want to hold something where they're going to bring their friends that could also be your clients. So think wine tasting, golf outings, education, charity events, whatever it might be, right? Hunting, fishing, cigar bars, drinking, concerts. I mean, literally anything that you could think of, I've heard. I've had advisors do the cook-off shows, like the team events where you do the cooking. We've done bourbon tasting, wine tasting. I had an advisor rent off a jewelry shop and people got to try on fancy jewelry. I mean, anything. And sometimes it is like those fun experiences that people are just like, oh yeah, I really want to do that. Okay, the workshops, we've talked about that with the COIs, but think about, okay, what types of content and topics, which we're going to talk about in future sessions, but business owners, tax strategy, retirement, women in wealth, shared audiences, right? So you want to have that collective thought process there. The fourth is the introduction opportunities. So instead of just asking for a referral, say, is there anybody that you think that I should know? So it's a little bit reduced pressure and it's just an introduction. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're looking for someone to be your client, but maybe you're looking for expanding your network for new COIs. So who do you think that I should know? So it's just a little twist on some of the art and science behind these opportunities. The fifth is the LinkedIn, the relationship mining, which I already gave Eric his shout out, but this is really powerful because you should definitely be connecting with your clients on LinkedIn, looking for mutual connections, looking for the second and third iteration people, asking for introductions to those folks. If you can ask for an introduction to a specific person, it's going to be more likely than just blindly asking for a referral. Number six is the life event referral conversation. So use key moments for opportunities. We all are going to naturally think about retirement, right? Definitely. That's a given. But selling a business, getting inheritance. So when someone passes away, it might feel a little bit morbid, but yeah, there are some advisors that watch the obituaries or at least have like those Google alerts set up on their clients or their clients' grandparents and know these things when they're happening. Divorce, deaths, job transitions. Let's get out of the doom and gloom and talk about fun stuff. Maybe it's weddings and babies and graduations and other things. But people that are going through similar areas are going to be able to have those conversations. Everyone kind of migrates through the seasons of their lives at similar times. So those clients that are all in the wedding season, not too much later, it's all of the baby season. And so excited grandparents and great grandparents, those are all easy conversations to have, which turn into great referral opportunities. Number seven is it's kind of a piggyback. It's the educational content sharing. We've already shared about that, but checklists and updates and guides and tips and tricks. And these can be emails, these can be worksheets, these can be social media posts, these can be all kinds of different contents. They could be short video clips. We have a group that is out in Arizona that's been really good about their video clips and sending the tidbits of information for educational sharing on updates that way. All of those are relevant and important. So pick what works for you. Number 8 is the referral roundtable. So we talked about connecting different COIs together or similar ones, but hosting small networking with your COIs or with your clients or with business owners. So don't underestimate the power of relationships. And people are never been lonelier in America. There's a lot of research and study out there about that. As connected as we are and as busy we are, more people say that they feel lonely. And a lot of times our clients could be going through phases of life and think that they're isolated or they're alone and maybe they don't have other people that are in similar boat. So connecting them together, business owners, hey, let me introduce you to another business owner. You're going to have similar issues in family and what's going on with it. But that is really a opportunity when you can connect people. And that leads us right into the client success and stories, right? So, and whenever you've helped somebody navigate something complex, and then that can then be translated to others. Number 10 is the community involvement, and this could include volunteering on a board or volunteering for a nonprofit. It could be working within the Chamber of Commerce, the Lions, the Rotary, like any of those things, college alumni associations, any kind of long-term referral ecosystem that's building trust and visibility. We have one advisor that is a coach. And so he does all of the coaching for his kids' programs, and he loves it because he said, I meet so many people. And they asked me, what do I do for my career? And I said, well, I basically do this, but for adults with their money. And it's a little bit of a joke. And I'm like, no, what, really? Oh, yeah, well, I'm a financial advisor, so I do. And so it's a great little easy lighthearted, and then people have already like built that trust. He's in the community, and then boom, it translates over and he's building clients out from it. I think it's wonderful. So community involvement is a huge piece. Number 11 is the connector recognition strategy. So this is where you publicly appreciate clients or COIs who have made introductions. So it could be at like a client appreciation dinner. Some people like having their name announced. Some people would shudder at it. So make sure you know your audience before you put somebody out there. If they're more introverted and shy, a beautiful handwritten note is going to be more powerful than the public shout out. So know who your audience is. But an appreciation lunch. I mean, some advisors will do the Starbucks gift card and coffee on me, whatever it might be. It could be a small token. It could be a grander gesture. So based on your relationship and what your needs are, but those types of ideas. Number 12 is the multi-generational family meetings. So one group that I have worked with in the past built their entire practice off of this. This is probably more towards upper high net worth and ultra high net worth because there's some really scary stats about money within that population. 60 to 70% of wealth is gone by the second generation. 90% of wealth is gone by the third generation. There's a lot of misconceptions of the wealth getting wealthier. Most of the wealth today is self-made. It's people building businesses, selling businesses, and then that wealth disappears. So there's a lot of great resources that families that have wealth are really concerned about. How do I pass on my work ethics and values to my kids who are seemingly maybe a little more lazy or a little more entitled? Like, these are real conversations that families are having. They're worried about their adult children. And so talking about those abilities. Now, outside of that ultra high net worth and the worry about retaining wealth, it still pertains to everyone, because think about the sandwich generation. Think about your retirees that have very aging parents in their 80s and adult children, and they're worried about both. Or maybe they're siblings and they have to take care of their siblings, or business partners. So there's a lot of multi-generational family meetings, business type things. There's a lot of opportunity in expanding around all of those areas. Number 13 is the strategic niche. So we talked a lot about really focusing down on who are you looking for. And so be visible in those communities and groups. So if it's physicians or tech execs or business women's or airlines or attorneys or whoever it is, you need to make sure that you know about the events that they're attending and that's important in your community, and then you're there so that you're networking in those communities and those events so that you stay relevant within your group. Number 14 is the reverse referral strategy. So we talked about this already as well. We talked about the give first before you ask or receive. So that's the 14th kind of idea on what's the art and science of giving and getting referrals. And then the last one, number 15, is ask for advice. We touched on this briefly too, but instead of just asking for business, ask for your perspective. Ask for how do you handle, or what do you think? A lot of times people really are excited when they feel like they're contributing value and that their opinions matter and they're heard. So there is a lot of art and science to the referrals, and there's a lot of different strategies. There are tons of books and resources and YouTube videos and online scripts. I mean, if you just Google Centers of Influence and referrals, you're going to be inundated with ideas. But until you do that, let's turn to your workbook. So page 13 of your workbook, exercise 1A is your COI target list. So let's think, who do you want to pursue? Now, hopefully you did last session's exercises and you know your best clients. So think about where there's overlap. If you haven't done your best clients, you might want to pause on this until you do your best clients, because you really want to make sure that your COIs are in the network of your best clients so that you can replicate those folks. But there's 10 slots here. And if you're focused mostly on like those trusted professionals, like attorneys or CPAs, you're thinking, well, that's just going to take up two. Well, no, not necessarily. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And each one of these professionals is only working with so many clients themselves. So some of the most successful referral and COI opportunities that I've seen are advisors that have had 10 CPAs in their pipeline working, and they would round robin different referrals to share and count and get, right? So you could have 10 in one specific area, or you could have a couple in different niche type of areas. So there's a lot of ways that you can think about this and build it out. Once you have your target list, let's start thinking about your meeting framework. So what is the purpose of your first meeting? You want to learn about their ideal client, you want to find overlap, and you want to offer some value. So what are you going to offer to them? So write down your give first ideas. And that's going to be your agenda for your first meeting. You're going to go through these three things in that first meeting with your COIs. So have those items organized and thought out. Okay, so switch over to page 14 and start working on your script. And so you can just fill in these blanks as a first. And yes, scripts are a little uncomfortable sometimes. And yes, nobody likes role playing, but you can do it in a mirror. You can do it with your partner, your spouse, or your friend, or your coworker. You can do it with us. We'll do it with you. You can Zoom yourself and then watch it again. And you're going to refine it. And the first 5 times is going to feel clunky. But by the time you do it 10 times, you're going to have it down pat. You've got to practice it. The more consistently you practice the same message, the easier it just flows off your tongue and the more believable or the more fluid it is. And it just adds a lot of power to that. So get your script and practice it. And then let's do your assignments here. So how many COI meetings are you going to hold this week? You can't just have one because a strong CPA COI might give you 3 or 4 leads in a year. That's not going to double your business, right? You're going to need a pipeline of different people. That's why I asked you to come up with a list of 10. The most powerful advisor groups that see significant growth have multiple areas of referral opportunity. You might have your top 3 clients, your top 3 CPAs, your top 3 attorneys, your top 3 connectors, right? Think chambers, attorneys, or realtors, bankers, whoever it might be. So how many meetings are you going to have each week? And then do you have a tracking sheet? If not, then create one. And you can modify your lead nurturing or your client service model, right? We've worked on a couple of different tracking sheets. So how are you going to track your COIs? You need to know the dates, your notes, your next step, and when you're going to talk to them again. All right, let's go on. Also on page 14 and then leading a little bit into 15 is let's identify your referral moments. So where can referrals happen naturally? When does that happen? So after delivering results, okay, well, when is that? Probably maybe not right at signing, probably not at the end of the meeting, right? Maybe in the middle of the meeting when energy is high. We know that meetings can be exhausting. So a lot of times advisors will fail at identifying a referral moment because they wait till the end and they're just too tired. And then they read their clients and they know their clients are too tired. So make that somewhere in the middle at the peak of the meeting after delivering a great result on a plan, after giving some good news and pivoting a little into some personal stuff and then referrals and then get back into the meeting, right? So when can those just happen? After wow moments, all of those ideas. So what does that look like for you? What does your practice look like? How can you work those in? Your referral language, you've got to figure out what's going to work best for you approach-wise. So directly asking or doing introductions or soft asking, and you need to work on that language and practice that language. And then exercise 3C is your referral target list. So this is a little bit different than just your COIs, right? So client relationships that you would like to ask. And then how many referrals are you going to ask for? How many introductions are you going to ask for this week? And then implement that tracking progress. And you can mine LinkedIn or you can just generally talk, especially if they're still actively working, you want to get into that employer group, whatever your situation might be, that's what you want to focus on. All right, we went a little over time, so really quick, let's just talk about what's coming up. Next is going to be a deep dive on seminars. So are they worth it? And we're going to say yes. I'll give you a little sneak preview. We're going to say yes. And then we're going to talk about the successful seminar process. So we'll have a guest speaker on next week who's been doing a lot of research and studying, our very own Drew. So he's going to go through identifying topics, how to market it, how to do registration, how to actually present it, the appointment and the follow-up, and other great news as well. So that is all that we have for today. I appreciate everybody.